The tragedy of the chronic searcher is that what she's looking for can only be found by stopping. But stopping is the one thing she cannot do. Now the final mission, mission 8. This one's subtle, painful, and way more common than you think. Mission 8, the fortress that needs feeding. She's been hurt enough times that she stopped expecting anything from men. She's built a life that works without a partner. She's proud of not needing anyone. That pride became her identity, and that identity became her prison. The armor is real. She's genuinely tough. Successful often because toughness translates well to competitive environments. She can handle anything except vulnerability. Albert Ellis talked about irrational beliefs, core lies we tell ourselves that create suffering. Her core lie is simple. Needing someone makes me weak. Being needed makes me strong. So she found a workaround. She dates men who need her, younger men, less established men. Men who are struggling in some way, men she can help, guide, mentor, rescue. This lets her be in a relationship while maintaining control. She's giving, not receiving. She's strong, they're weak. The power dynamic stays comfortable, safe. The armored caretaker is chasing intimacy through a back door. She wants connection but can only accept it when she's the provider. Caretaking becomes a substitute for vulnerability, and as long as it stays that way, she never has to risk being truly seen. Freud said we repeat what we don't repair. The armored caretaker is repeating the same dynamic in every relationship. Picking broken men, fixing them, then feeling resentful when they don't meet her needs. Needs she never admitted having in the first place. You'll see this in her dating history. Men who needed her financially, emotionally, practically. Men she helped through dark times. Men who were projects. She'll tell you she just happened to attract broken men, but patterns aren't accidents. She picks broken men because broken men are safe. They can't threaten her fortress. They can't ask her to come down from the walls. If you're a capable, stable man attracted to this woman, your capability is actually a barrier. She doesn't know how to relate to someone she can't fix. Your strength makes her uncomfortable because it removes her excuse for staying in control. Marcus Aurelius said the obstacle is the way. For the armored caretaker, her strength is both her salvation and her obstacle. It saved her from pain, but now it's preventing the connection she actually wants. What she really needs is someone strong enough to see through her armor, someone who refuses to be rescued, someone who says, I don't need you to save me, I want you to be with me. But that requires you to come down and be vulnerable too. Most men can't do this. They either let her rescue them, which reinforces the pattern, or they try to rescue her, which triggers her defenses. The path between those two is narrow and hard to find. But until she finds someone who can walk it, until she learns to receive instead of just give, until she discovers that being needed isn't the same as being loved, she'll stay trapped in her fortress, safe, alone, strong enough to handle everything. Except the one thing she actually wants, connection, real connection, the kind that requires both people to be vulnerable, the kind she's been avoiding her entire life. Now let's bring this all together, because these 8 missions reveal something fundamental about human nature that goes way beyond dating. Jung said the shadow contains not just our darkness, but our unlived life. All the things we could have been, but aren't. All the needs we have, but won't admit. All the hungers we're too scared to feed honestly. By 40, the shadow is huge. Decades of unlived life. Unmet needs, unspoken hungers. And all of it drives behavior from underneath. Creating patterns people don't understand in themselves. The evidence hunter is chasing proof of value because she's terrified of being worthless. The shelter seeker is chasing safety because she's never felt safe. The magic waiter is chasing transformation because she can't accept her actual life. The handler seeker is chasing someone to depend on because she never learned to depend on herself. The career dominant is chasing permission to surrender because strength became her prison. The status recoverer is chasing restoration because loss broke her identity. The chronic searcher is chasing herself because she's running from herself. The armored caretaker is chasing intimacy while armored against intimacy. Every mission is about lack. Every pattern is about wound. Every attachment is about need trying to find supply. And here's what matters. This isn't unique to women over 40. This is human. We all do this. We all chase what we lack. We all attach to people who provide what we desperately need. We all mistake need for love sometimes. The only difference is that by 40, the patterns are visible, the wounds are obvious, the missions are clear. What was subtle at 25 is screaming at 45. Robert Greene said the ultimate power is self-knowledge, knowing your own patterns, understanding your own wounds, seeing your own shadow clearly enough that it stops controlling you from the dark. If you're dating after 40, whether you're a man or a woman, the question isn't, what is the other person chasing? The question is, what am I chasing? What's my mission? What wound am I trying to heal through another person? Because until you answer that question honestly, until you see your own pattern clearly, you'll keep repeating it. Keep choosing the same types. Keep having the same fights. Keep ending up in the same place wondering why nothing ever works. Nietzsche said we must become who we are. But first we have to see who we've been, the patterns we've repeated, the missions we've been on without knowing it, the ways we've been chasing wholeness in all the wrong places. The healthiest people aren't the ones without wounds. They're the ones who know their wounds so well they can choose how to respond instead of just reacting. Who can say, yes, I want validation, but I won't build my life around chasing it. Yes, I need safety, but I won't attach to just anyone who provides it. That's wisdom. That's growth. That's the difference between being driven by your shadow and walking with it consciously. So here's my challenge to you. Don't just watch this and think about other people. Think about yourself. What are you really chasing? What mission are you on? What wound is driving your choices in the dark? Because the moment you see it clearly is the moment you can choose differently. And that choice, that moment of real self-knowledge, that's where everything changes. This is raw and real, where we don't just talk about what people do. We talk about why, and the why is always deeper, darker, and more human than anyone wants to admit. There's a woman sitting across from you at dinner. She's 43, successful, beautiful in that way that comes from knowing yourself. She laughs at your jokes. The conversation flows. Everything seems perfect. But something's off. You can't name it, but you feel it. Like she's looking at you and seeing someone else. Like she's listening but waiting for different words. Like you're auditioning for a role you didn't know existed. Welcome to Dating After 40. I'm not here to judge anyone. I'm here to show you what's really happening beneath the surface. Because here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. By the time a woman hits 40, she's not just looking for a partner. She's on a mission. And that mission has nothing to do with what she tells you on the first date. Carl Jung said something powerful. He said every person wears a mask. He called it the persona, the face we show the world. But beneath that mask lives the shadow, the parts we hide, the needs we won't admit, the hungers that drive us in the dark. By 40, a woman's shadow has grown teeth. She's lived long enough to know what she lost, what she never had, what was taken from her, what she gave away. And now she's hungry. Not for love in the fairy tale sense, but for something specific. Something that will fill the exact shape of her wound. This isn't about being cruel. This is about being honest. Because when you understand what someone really wants, you stop wasting time. You stop being confused. You stop taking things personally that were never about you in the first place. Today we're going into the 8 psychological missions that drive women over 40, not what they say they want, what they're actually chasing. The patterns that repeat in every conversation, every relationship, every late-night text message. And here's why this matters for you. Whether you're a man trying to understand the women you date, or a woman wondering why you keep making the same choices, or just someone who wants to understand human behavior at its deepest level. Because these patterns, they're not just about women. They're about what happens to all of us when time passes and wounds accumulate, and the gap between who we are and who we wanted to be gets too wide to ignore. Nietzsche warned us. He said we become what we repeatedly do. Our patterns become our prison. And by 40, those prison walls are thick. Let me tell you about the first mission. The one that hides behind confidence but bleeds insecurity. Mission 1. The hunt for evidence. Picture this. She posts a photo online, spends 20 minutes choosing it, checks the likes every 10 minutes, compares the response to her last post, to her friends' posts, to photos from 5 years ago. This isn't vanity. This is research. She's gathering data, testing a hypothesis. The hypothesis is simple and terrifying. Do I still matter? See, for 20 years, the world told her she mattered because of how she looked. Heads turned, men approached, doors opened. Her appearance was currency, and the economy was good. Then the economy crashed. Not all at once, slowly. A waiter's eyes that skip past her to the younger woman. A compliment that doesn't come. A promotion that goes to someone fresher. The realization that she's competing with versions of herself from 15 years ago and losing. Robert Greene wrote about power. He said power is perception. When people perceive you as valuable, you are valuable. When that perception shifts, your entire reality shifts with it. For women over 40, that shift is brutal. So she starts hunting, not for a relationship, for evidence that she still registers, that she can still create an effect. That time hasn't erased her from the map of desirability. You'll notice how she responds to attention. Any attention. She lights up when someone notices her. Not just romantic attention. Professional respect. Social acknowledgement. Being seen by the waiter first. It all counts. It all goes into the ledger. But here's the trap. The evidence never sticks. A compliment today doesn't prove anything about tomorrow. So she needs more. And more. And more. The hunt never ends because the fear never stops. Jung talked about this. He said we all have a core wound. A place where we feel fundamentally lacking. And we spend our whole lives trying to prove that wound wrong. Trying to gather enough evidence that we're actually okay. For the evidence hunter, the wound is simple. I'm losing my value, and every gray hair, every younger woman in the room, every man who doesn't look twice makes that wound bleed fresh. So what's she really chasing? Proof of life. Proof that she's still in the game. Proof that she hasn't become invisible. If you meet this woman, understand something. Your attention is medicine. But medicine isn't love. She attached to you quickly if you provide steady doses of validation. She call you perfect. She move fast. She seem all in, but you're not the medicine. You're just the delivery system. And the moment someone offers stronger medicine, better validation, more consistent proof, her attention will follow. Not because she's cruel, because she's desperate. And desperate people don't bond with people. They bond with relief. Machiavelli understood this. He said people are moved by necessity, not loyalty. When you provide what someone desperately needs, they'll love you. But only until the desperation passes or another supplier appears. The evidence hunter isn't looking for you. She's looking for a mirror, one that reflects back the version of herself she's terrified she lost. Now let me show you the second mission. This one's darker, more hidden, and way more common than anyone admits. Mission 2. The search for shelter. She's been hurt. Not just disappointed, actually damaged. Betrayed in ways that changed how she sees the world. Maybe a husband who promised forever left her for someone younger. Maybe a partner cheated for years while she suspected but couldn't prove it. Maybe she gave the best years of her life to someone who took everything and gave back nothing. The wound is deep, and it's still bleeding. Freud said something important about trauma. He said we don't just remember our wounds, we repeat them. We recreate the conditions that hurt us because the mind keeps trying to solve the original problem. Like touching a bruise to see if it still hurts. But there's another response to trauma. Running in the opposite direction. The woman on the shelter mission isn't repeating her trauma. She's running from it. She's looking for someone to hide behind. What she's chasing isn't passion, it's peace. Not excitement. Safety. Someone who feels like the opposite of everything that hurt her before. Here's how you spot her. She moves incredibly fast. Not in a fun, spontaneous way. In an urgent way. Like someone who found land after drowning and needs to grab hold before the waves pull her back under. She'll talk about commitment on the second date. She say, I love you, before she actually knows you. She want to meet your family, blend your lives, lock things down immediately. This feels amazing at first. Like you found someone who actually wants what you want. Someone who's all in. Someone who sees your value and doesn't play games. But Arthur Schopenhauer warned us about this. He said we don't fall in love with people. We fall in love with what they represent to our unconscious needs. The shelter seeker isn't falling for you. She's falling for what you represent. Safety, stability, the end of fear. And here's the problem with that. Once she feels safe, once her nervous system finally relaxes, once she's not waking up in the middle of the night terrified anymore, something shifts. The gratitude that felt like love starts fading. The relief that seemed like passion cools down. She starts noticing things about you that didn't matter when she was desperate. Little incompatibilities, differences in values, the ways you're not actually perfect. Because she bonded with you out of need, not choice. Out of trauma response, not genuine connection? Marcus Aurelius taught that we should examine our attachments. Ask ourselves, am I holding on to this person, or am I holding on to what they protect me from? The shelter seeker can't answer that question, honestly. Not yet, because admitting she attached out of fear means admitting the relationship might not be real. If you're the man providing shelter, understand what you signed up for. The beginning will be incredible. She'll be devoted, grateful, present in ways that feel too good to be true. She'll make you feel like the hero of her story. But heroes get retired when the war ends. And when her fear finally quiets down, when the trauma stops screaming, she might look at you and realize she chose safety over compatibility, protection over passion. The end of pain over the start of something real. This isn't manipulation. She believes what she feels. The gratitude is genuine. The relief is real. But relief and love are not the same thing. And confusing them destroys relationships every single day. Now the third mission. This one's subtle, dangerous, and it ruins more relationships than almost anything else. Mission 3, the wait for magic. She's 44 years old, and part of her is still waiting for her real life to start. Not consciously. She'd deny it if you asked. But watch her behavior. Listen to her words. Notice what she's actually doing. She treats the present like a waiting room. Nice enough, comfortable enough, but temporary. She's waiting for the thing that will change everything. The career breakthrough. The spiritual awakening. The perfect relationship that finally makes everything click. Jung called this the provisional life. Living as if the real thing hasn't started yet. As if you're rehearsing for a play that never opens. Waiting for permission to actually begin. The magic seeker has been in this holding pattern for decades. And the longer she waits, the more specific her fantasy becomes. She knows exactly what the transformation should look like, how it should feel, what it will change. And nothing real can compete with a fantasy that's been perfected for 20 years. You'll see this in how she talks about her past. I was just going through the motions. I wasn't really living. I was waiting to feel ready. Even good experiences get rewritten as preparation for the real thing that's still coming. In relationships, this creates a nightmare. She'd be excited by you at first. You're new, different. You might be the catalyst she's been waiting for. The person who finally unlocks her real life. But novelty has a shelf life. Once you become familiar, once you're part of her actual day-to-day existence instead of her fantasy future, the magic fades. You stop being the transformation and become just another part of the waiting room. Epictetus taught that peace comes from accepting what is, not from waiting for what might be. But the magic seeker can't accept what is, because accepting means admitting she's not waiting anymore. She's living. And if this is her life, if this is what she gets, then the fantasy dies. So she keeps one foot out the door, always scanning, always wondering, always ready to leave the moment something that feels more like magic appears. This makes her loyal to possibility instead of reality, faithful to fantasy instead of the person in front of her. She's present physically but absent emotionally, because her real attention is pointed toward tomorrow. Nietzsche said something devastating about this. He said some people are so obsessed with becoming who they might be that they never actually are who they are. They sacrifice the real for the possible, the present for the perfect. The magic seeker does this in every area of her life. Jobs she treats as temporary. Cities she never fully moves to. Friendships she keeps at arm's length. Relationships she sabotages the moment they feel too real. Because real means permanent, and permanent means the fantasy is over. And she's not ready for that. She might never be ready. If you're trying to build something with a magic seeker, know this. You cannot compete with her imagination. You cannot be perfect enough, exciting enough, transformative enough to satisfy a need that isn't actually about you. She's not looking for a partner. She's looking for a miracle. And when you turn out to be human instead of magic, she'll be disappointed. Not in you specifically. In reality itself. Now we get to mission 4. This one's hard to talk about because it sounds judgmental, but I'm not here to judge. I'm here to show you the truth. And the truth is, some people never learn to stand alone. Mission 4. The search for a handler. She's 42, and she's never paid her own bills without anxiety. Never made a major decision without someone else's approval. Never built the infrastructure of independent adult life. Not because she's stupid, not because she's lazy, but because someone always did it for her. Father, boyfriend, husband. Someone always managed the hard parts, the finances, the logistics, the decisions that felt too big. She moved from one handler to the next without ever building her own foundation. And now, through divorce or death or circumstances, she's facing the world alone for the first time. And she's terrified. Jung talked about psychological development. He said true adulthood means integrating your own masculine and feminine sides, being both nurturing and assertive, both soft and strong. But if someone never develops one side, they stay psychologically dependent forever. The handler-seeker never developed her masculine side, the part that provides, protects, decides, handles. She outsourced it. And now she's looking for someone to take over that role again. But here's where it gets complicated. She resents the very thing she needs. She's drawn to strong men who can handle things, then fights against their authority because it reminds her of her dependency. She wants romance and passion and emotional intensity because those things feel like freedom from the practical responsibilities she never learned to manage. She wants to feel alive, not managed. So she oscillates between needing someone to take control and rebelling against anyone who does. Jordan Peterson talks about this exact pattern. He says responsibility creates meaning, but some people were never taught to carry responsibility, so they remain eternal adolescents, capable of adult pleasures but not adult duties. You'll recognize the handler-seeker by her drama. She's drawn to intensity because intensity feels like depth. Stable men feel boring. Responsible men feel controlling. The guy who could actually help her build a life feels like her father or her ex-husband. But the exciting guy who destabilizes her life? He feels alive. He makes her feel something powerful. She confuses chaos with authenticity, intensity with intimacy. Her relationship history shows the pattern. She cycles between responsible men she sabotages and unsuitable men she can't resist. Periods of good choices followed by impulsive disasters. She'd date the accountant who could help her get her finances together, then cheat with the musician who makes her feel 25 again. Machiavelli said people want two contradictory things, security and freedom. The handler-seeker wants both at the same time. She wants someone to take care of everything while also leaving her completely free. It's impossible, but she keeps trying to find someone who can do it anyway. If you're a stable, capable man attracted to this woman, understand something painful. Your capability is actually a problem for her. Your strength reminds her of her weakness. Your competence makes her feel incompetent. She needs you, but she resents needing you. She'll pick fights to prove she doesn't need anyone. She'll make terrible decisions to prove she's independent. She'll sabotage the exact stability she claims she wants. This isn't conscious. She genuinely believes she wants partnership. But partnership requires two adults. And she's still part child, wanting to be taken care of while refusing to be told what to do. The tragedy is that until she does the work of actually growing up, of learning to handle her own life, she keeps destroying relationships with people who could actually help her. Now, mission 5. This one's going to hit some of you hard because you know this woman. You might be this woman. Mission 5. The surrender she can't accept. She's successful, accomplished, the kind of woman who runs meetings and makes decisions and gets things done. She's been in charge for so long she doesn't remember what it feels like not to be. The problem is those skills don't turn off. Decisiveness, assertiveness, control, they served her well at work. They made her money, earned her respect, built her career, but they followed her home. She manages her relationships like projects, plans dates like business meetings, tries to control outcomes the way she controls quarterly results. She can't help it. It's who she became to survive in a world that demands strength. Carl Jung said the anima and animus, the inner feminine and masculine, need balance. But the career dominant pushed her masculine side so far forward that her feminine side got buried. Not gone, buried. Armored over. Protected. What she's chasing is complicated. She wants a man strong enough that she doesn't have to be strong for once. Someone who can take the weight she's been carrying alone. Someone who makes her feel like she can finally let go. But letting go requires trust. And trust requires vulnerability. And vulnerability is exactly what she armored against years ago. So she's stuck. Drawn to strong men, then competing with them. Wanting to be led, then rebelling against leadership. Exhausted by her own dominance, but unable to stop exercising it. Robert Greene wrote about power dynamics. He said the person who cares less controls the relationship. The career dominant learned that lesson too well. She's terrified of caring more, of needing more, of being the vulnerable one. You'll see this in how she tests men. Constantly. Not because she wants you to fail, but because she needs to know you can handle her before she considers letting her guard down. Can you match her strength? Can you stand your ground? Can you lead without her permission? These tests are exhausting. But they're also invitations. She's asking, are you strong enough for me to finally be soft? The problem is most men fail the tests. They either try to dominate her, which triggers her defenses, or they defer to her, which disappoints her. The narrow path between those two extremes is incredibly hard to walk. Schopenhauer said we're all trapped by our nature. The career dominant is trapped by her competence. She built armor so effective she can't take it off anymore. And beneath that armor is a woman who desperately wants to surrender but has forgotten how. If you're attracted to career-dominant women, understand the paradox. She needs to feel safe enough to be vulnerable. But she can't feel safe until you prove your strength. And she'd test your strength in ways designed to make you fail. It's not fair, but it's real. The only way through is patience, consistency, meeting her tests without anger or resentment, showing up strong without trying to dominate, being solid enough that she can finally stop being so solid herself. But even then, even if you do everything right, she might not be able to surrender. The armor might be too thick, the wound beneath it too old. Some prisons we build ourselves and only we can choose to leave. Now, mission 6. This one's about loss. And the desperate need to get back what's gone. Mission 6. The Restoration Project. She used to have something. Status. Money. Access. A certain kind of life that felt natural. The right neighborhood. The right restaurants. The right social circle. A world that matched who she believed herself to be. Then something happened. Divorce. Financial collapse. Death. And now she's living a life that feels like punishment. Not poverty necessarily, but reduction, diminishment, a constant reminder of what she lost. Plato talked about the forms, perfect versions of things that exist in some higher realm. The status recoverer is haunting the memory of her perfect life, the one she had or almost had, and she's looking for someone who can give it back. What she's chasing isn't just money. It's the world money provides access to, the feeling of belonging to something elevated, the identity that comes from being part of a certain class. She attached quickly to anyone who represents that world. Men with visible success, status markers. The ability to open doors she thought were closed forever. She wants to believe because belief means hope of return. You'll notice her discontent, how she talks about her past in ways that emphasize the contrast with her present. how she name drops former connections, how she has standards that seem misaligned with her current reality. Not because she's delusional, but because she's measuring against where she was, not where she is. She's living in exile from her own life, and every day in exile makes the homeland feel more perfect in memory. Hobbes said life is nasty, brutish, and short, but for some people, life was actually pretty good for a while. And losing good makes you bitter in ways that never having good doesn't. The status recoverer is chasing restoration, a ticket back. A man who can return her to the world she belongs in. Not just any man. The right kind of man, with the right resources, connections, and access. This makes her vulnerable to display. Men who project status, even if that projection is hollow, trigger her hope quickly. She wants to believe. She needs to believe. Because belief is all she has. If you're that man, understand what you represent to her. You're not just a partner. You're a rescue mission. A way back home. And if your status changes, if your resources diminish, if you can't actually deliver the restoration she's chasing, her attachment will crack. Because she's not attached to you. She's attached to what you represent, the possibility of return, the chance to stop feeling like she's living beneath herself. Nietzsche said to become who you are, but the status recoverer is trying to become who she was. And you can never go back. The person who lives in exile changes. The homeland changes. Even if you return, nothing fits the same way anymore. Until she accepts that, until she stops chasing restoration and starts building something new, she remains stuck. Attached to a ghost, loyal to a memory. Waiting for someone to give her back a life that doesn't exist anymore. Now, Mission 7. This one's everywhere. You see it on social media. In workshop culture. In the endless search for the next thing. Mission 7. The movement that never stops. She's always in motion. Workshops, retreats, courses, new philosophies, new practices, new identities. Her calendar is packed with activities that look like growth but function as running. What's she running from? Herself. The parts of herself she hasn't integrated. The questions she hasn't answered. The stillness that would force her to actually look at her life. Jung said the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, but becoming requires stopping. Sitting with yourself, facing the shadow. The chronic searcher can't do that. Stillness feels like death, so she keeps moving. She's chasing the perfect version of herself she believes is hiding inside. The breakthrough that will finally make everything click. The experience that will transform her. The insight that will heal her wounds. But transformation doesn't work that way. Real change comes from integration, not accumulation. From sitting with what is, not running toward what might be. You'll recognize her by her intensity. Strong opinions about everything. Spirituality. Healing modalities. Diet. Politics. Psychology. These opinions change frequently. Each one held with complete conviction until the next one arrives. This isn't intellectual curiosity. It's identity instability dressed up as open-mindedness. She's trying on selves like clothes. Nothing fits quite right. So she keeps shopping. In relationships, she brings chaos. She wants deep conversations at midnight. She wants you to grow with her, change with her, match her constant evolution. But her evolution has no destination. She's not becoming something. She's just moving. Epictetus taught that peace comes from accepting what cannot be changed and changing what can be. But the chronic searcher won't accept anything. She believes everything can and should be transformed. Including herself, endlessly. She's exhausting to be with because nothing is ever enough. Not you, not the relationship, not her own life. There's always another level to reach, another workshop to attend, another version of herself to discover. If you're trying to build something stable with her, know this. Stability feels like stagnation to her. Commitment feels like prison. Contentment feels like giving up. She'll leave the moment things feel too settled. Not because you failed, because she needs movement the way other people need air. And eventually you'll become part of the stillness she's running from.